You can start over. Sorry.
Start over?
Yes.
Okay. Paul Wagaman,
Present.
Philip Combs,
Present.
Lynn Larson, absent at this time. Brian Parsons,
Present.
Robert Estrada,
I'm here.
Don Daniels is excused. Ryan Pearson,
Here,
you have quorum, Chair, Vice Chair.
thank you. Sorry for the technical difficulties and this little slow start. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes from January 18th, 2023.
I'll motion to approve the minutes of this.
Second.
Mr. Combs and Mr. Wagaman. Any questions, concerns, issues? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Minutes passed as written. Moving on to the agenda updates. Any agenda updates from staff?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, and then public comments. Is there anyone in here wishing to make public comment or online that wishes to make public comment?
Everyone online, Mr. Chair, is here to make presentations this evening.
Okay,
And me too.
okay, thank you. Moving right along to item 6, we do not have a public hearing. So number 7, we have no unfinished business. And number 8, new business, the 2024 comprehensive plan periodic review process, utilities and public services, part 2, land use maps and text.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So this evening is a continuation of the conversation that was begun with the Planning Commission on January 18th. Just to remind you and the public who may be watching, the city of Lakewood does not own its power, water, or sewer utilities. And so there are agencies that serve either some or all of the city to provide those services. And we are fortunate tonight to have guests here from Lakewood Light and Power. Puget Sound Energy is something that I will just update you briefly on. They couldn't make it tonight. And then we also have our partners from Clover Park School District and Pierce College here to talk to you about higher education in the city. The comprehensive plan and the fact that we're going to review all of these elements over the next 18 months or so to update them. We will be looking at the utilities and public services chapter of our comp plan. It has right now 19 goals and 84 policies. And so those will just be compared against state law to make sure they're still accurate. And then if there's changes based on recommendations coming from our partner utilities, we'll make those edits as well. So with that, I'm going to get out of the way. And if people will indulge me, I'm just going to select the order of the presentation. We're going to begin tonight with Lakewood Light and Power and Mr. John DeVore. I believe he'll be able to present remotely his presentation.
Good evening, everybody. How are you doing? John DeVore with Lakeview Light and Power. I'm the general manager.
Welcome.
Very good. Yeah, thank you.
Can everybody see my presentation?
Not yet.
That fast, huh?
Well, this time it worked well.
Is that one that our online folks could see? I can't quite see it yet on ours.
Yeah, we're all in that boat right now.
Oh, got it. Thanks.
John, are you able to go down to the bottom and hit the share screen button?
I did. Let me go back. Try this again.
There we go. Looks like,
See that?
yep.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So as I said, I'm John DeVore. I'm the general manager at Lakeview Light and Power. Give you a little background of our company. So I'll cover Lakeview's history, our distribution system, kind of some metrics and facts about who we are, what size we are, and then some of our future focus and concerns as we work to partner with the city. So to give you a brief glimpse of our history, we're a cooperative power distribution company, which differs from Tacoma Power, which is a a consumer-owned public utility, and Puget Sound Energy, which is an investor-owned utility. We're a mutual, nonprofit, consumer-owned utility. We were formed by farmers and dairy owners seeking rural electric service back in the early 1920s. We are a firm load following customer of BPA. We buy 100% of our power from BPA. That power is wheeled to us by Tacoma Power to all of the Pierce County Mutual substations, not only ours, but also companies like Peninsula Light and Power, Parkland Light and Water, Elmhurst Mutual Power, and OHOP Mutual Power, as well as the town of Steilacoom, city of Milton, and town of Eatonville. We have ownership in 2 wind farm operations in South Central Washington. One is the White Creek Wind Farm, which began operation in 2007. And the other is the Harvest Wind Farm, which began operation in 2009. We do not have transmission rights to bring those loads to power to our distribution center, so we sell those in power purchase agreements to off-takers. We are board governed, so we have 5 directors that are elected by our membership annually to govern the affairs and set the strategy for the corporation. We have 28 employees, of which 3 of them are part-time employees. I am the 7th general manager for Lakeview Light and Power in its 101 years of operation. And our mission is to providing reliable, low-cost power while focusing on superior customer service and a commitment to safety. Some of the details about Lakeview's distribution. Regarding our service area, we're a pretty condensed utility. We serve roughly 10 square miles of distribution in parts of Lakewood, Washington, and unincorporated Pierce County. We are one of the 3 power utilities that are serving Lakewood, the others being Tacoma Power and Puget Sound Energy. Of course, the population of Lakewood is roughly 63,400 people. And the poverty level of our distribution that we serve is roughly 23% of our customers live at or below the federal poverty level. We are a cooperative, as I mentioned, so we are owned by our members, of which we have, I'm sorry, was there a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay, of which we have 2,827 members. Members are comprised of both residential and commercial accounts that own the real property that their homes or businesses are on. Of those, we serve 10,448 meters, which we refer to as our customers. So of the 10,448, only 20% or so of our load are members that own shares in Lakeview Light and Power. It doesn't matter how many pieces of property you own, whether they're residential or commercial, each owner is entitled to 1 share or 1 vote in the affairs of the corporation at its annual meeting. Our maximum peak load from 1996 was 62 megawatts. We have a total capacity to serve 100 megawatts. Our average load is 30 average megawatts, and that's measured throughout the year. Currently, right now, to give you an idea, our January load usually runs in the low 50 megawatts. More distribution details. Our load growth is currently 2%, which is considered minimal or relatively flat. Of course, we do have some potential load that will be coming into the Lakewood area that we're looking at in the near future. Part of that is due to the electrification of transportation. Other is due to repurposing of certain regional districts that Lakewood is redeveloping as part of their master plan. Our miles of distribution, that's lines, are conductors that we have in our distribution network. 51 miles are underground, which represents about 61% of our distribution. And overhead represents 32 miles, or about 40% of our distribution. As we build new infrastructure and replace old, we try to go underground wherever we can because it's more aesthetically pleasing and a lot more resilient and mitigates against falling branches and animal contacts that cause power outages. Our customer composition, we have 43% of our service is residential, 57% of that is commercial. So we have, for a cooperative power company, we have an extremely high commercial load compared to other cooperative power companies in the state. A lot of that is due to our urban location. Regarding our strategic plan, our focuses are on a strong culture of safety. Everything my operations people do, they deal day to day with life-ending current. So our safety culture has to be extremely high and focused, and we continue to dwell upon that and improve it wherever we can. And that spills over into not only our office environment, but our home lives as well. We're in the process of replacing our substations, which at the time that I began as general manager were all 40 years or older in age. They were all very well taken care of, but well beyond their useful life and their retired life. So we were kind of on borrowed time and wanting to really purposely focus on replacing those substations, which are the heart of our distribution system, and do so in a way that was cost effective for our members and customers that we serve, but also thinking ahead to future generations and spacing the replacement of those substations out where it wouldn't be much impacted the next time they had to be replaced. So of those substations, we currently have 4. We have replaced 2 of those, one in 2020, right in the middle of the COVID pandemic. The other was replaced this last year. We have another one that we'll replace in 2024, and our final substation will be replaced in 2026. About that time, based upon Sound Transit's move with their electrification of their locomotives, we may be even building a 5th substation along Stilcomb Boulevard. Another one of our strategic focuses is around grid resiliency, making sure that our poles, our conductors, which are our wires both overhead and underground, and transformers are replaced on an asset revolving schedule that replaces them at the end of their useful life, again, to promote better resiliency and power connectivity. As you're aware, and of recent news, substations, of course, are a very important topic for us, especially with the safety of them and keeping them secure, as well as cybersecurity, which is an ever-changing environment for us. And then finally, for strategic plan is taking a look at our succession planning. We've had the blessing of having many individuals who have worked with Lakeview Light and Power for over 40 years. Some people, it's been the only job they've ever had. And those people are beginning to retire or have retired recently. And so as we look to the future of replacing those jobs, we're looking at a couple of areas of focus. Number one, diversity, to try to really promote and give visibility to the trade careers, because they are good careers, but there's very limited diversity. It's predominantly a white male company with operations folks, and we would love to see women and other people of color involved in this great utility as well. And then another area is a hybrid workforce. So the demands of our jobs as utility workers has greatly changed, more so in the last 10 years than it had in the previous 90 years. And so as such, we're having to take a look at a lot of hybrid skill requirements with people. And to give you an idea, in the past where you may have had to have more of a mechanical capability in doing a job, we need a technical aspect of it as well, because so many parts of our distribution and our operations and systems are being converted to a technical format with electronic captures of workflow of our outage management system, which we just rolled out. So we need people that have hybrid skills, not only in their physical work profession, but also in their technical ability to understand technology and changes that we're making. Some of our focuses and concerns are resource adequacy and transmission capacity. And I'll explain what those are as we kind of go through the list of things here. So resource adequacy is having enough power in place to provide the needs that people need in their everyday lives to operate all of their devices, to work, to live, to play. And transmission capacity is tied along with that. There's a lot of discussion about building new variable green generation east of the mountains in eastern Washington, which could either be wind or solar farms. The problem is we don't have the current transmission capacity to bring those loads to market or bring them to the end user. New transmission would have to be built. So there are a couple of constraints that we're always focusing on, and we're trying to educate our lawmakers, especially in Olympia and in the other Washington, as to what we can do to really get the most out of our utility system without putting it at risk for rolling brownouts. Of course, supply chain and inflation for much of you, or same for us, is very difficult and very cumbersome to work around. To give you an idea right now, to get a pad mount transformer, which we would use for a commercial building, if we don't have it in stock, those transformers are not available for 2 to 3 years. Yeah. So, and we're still quite a bit behind in the supply chain complexities, and expect to see those probably trickle into 2024, 2025. Bonneville Power Administration, as I mentioned before, we've purchased 100% of our power from Bonneville. We have a future 20-year contract that we're negotiating with them right now, which will take place in 2028. We're doing a lot of load forecasting and tier 1 power provisions, so we can make sure that we have affordable power to our customers and sufficient load to power all the new load that is coming in. Things like electrifying transportation, which I'll touch on a little bit. The removal of natural gas as a cooking and heating resource. And then to give you an idea of what our fuel mix is, our fuel mix is the type of generation that we buy from Bonneville. So we are a very green, non-carbon emitting utility. Our fuel mix, 84% of the power we purchase is generated by hydroelectricity from the dams, the Federal Columbia River Power System. 12% is clean nuclear, and 4%, just a small percentage, is unspecified. And what that really is just small market purchases that BPA makes to fulfill our load requirements. Most of those are green generation, either hydro, nuclear, or biomass generated. Could be wind, could be solar. But the purchases are so small, they don't carry the electric or the renewable generation tag with them. So they can't truly claim them as green power. But again, that's usually 4% or less than our annual load. As I mentioned, electrification of transportation, especially to the Lakewood area, and specifically to Lakeview Light and Power, is of big focus for us. We have Pierce Transit that we provide power for. We just recently ran and dedicated a feeder from our Roy Miller 2 substation that will take care of every single fleet need they have to electrify all of their bus fleet and their staff fleet and van pool fleets. We have Sound Transit, which will be converting their locomotives, which are a hybrid, to an electric locomotive. We have the Lakewood Industrial Park as logistic vehicles transition to EV vehicles in the future. We also have loads such as Lakewood Ford, Clover Park School District Bus Barn, and the new fulfillment center, which is going to be a contractor for Amazon, which is looking at property in the Lakewood area in our distribution system to fulfill Amazon's next day and same day deliveries. Some of our concerns are we're just pulling out of the utility moratorium and the effects that had upon us. We're recovering 2 years of lost revenue when we cannot perform disconnections due to the governor's moratorium on power, and the change management that comes with that once we've reactivated disconnections for non-payments and late fees and such, which are now valid measures that utility companies use. We still try to work with customers in the most humanely way possible to help them manage their costs and to keep their power on and to pay their bills on time. And there's been some loss of small commercial load as well due to the pandemic and the utility shutdowns that occurred in the 2020 and 2021 years. Regarding federal, state, and local legislation and planning, Clean Energy Transformation Act, the Climate Commitment Act, all have legislation that impacts utilities greatly. And it's bills that are currently going on in this long session that just started that are really looking at growing solar production, or looking at equity balancing of utility needs for lower income customers, and even just changing the composition of how we purchase our power and where we purchase our power from. So we're involved in trying to educate our legislators and how we can really both meet the needs of our consumers, provide them reliable electricity, and most importantly, that's affordable. There's high density housing, as you're all aware, and the purpose of this meeting is looking at different housing volumes and inventories that Lakewood would like to add to their community to grow their community. Also, a low carbon fuel standard affects the fuels that we use in our equipment with diesel and gas powered vehicles. Population growth is another area of consideration for us. Washington State is growing at a rate of 1 million people for every decade over the past several decades, and how we'll rise and meet the occasion and need of those who move into the Lakewood area, specifically in the Lakeview Light and Power service territory, is one way we're looking to work with the city to make sure that our infrastructure, again, is reliable and it meets the need of all this growth. And fortunately, we do have a lot of capacity that we can provide for these new loads that are coming on the system. Again, I mentioned about the removal of natural gas as a cooking and heating resource. And then also the recent pressure to remove the lower Snake River dams. Fortunately, Senator Murray and Governor Inslee came back with a declaration understanding the need to keep those 4 lower Snake River dams as part of the federal Columbia River power system. They represent 1,000 average megawatts of generation, which is enough power to power 800,000 homes. So if they were to go offline, they remove a substantial part of our load that affects our resource adequacy and transmission capacity both. So what questions do you have?
Mr. Wagman?
Right, I've got several questions. The first one, you had members and meters served. What's the big delta there? Is that because of apartment buildings, or why is that difference?
Yes, good question, Mr. Wigman. Thank you for asking it. So we do serve a lot of transient housing with multifamily dwelling units or apartment complexes. We have several large ones in the Springbrook neighborhood that we serve, as well as in the Vista area and along Lakeview Drive as well. So we serve a total of 10,000 plus meters, but only 2,800 of those own their real property or are considered members of Lakeview Light and Power.
So that would be like the landlord then that owns the properties.
Correct.
Okay.
Landlord or property management company.
One of the things that we talk about, as we do housing and, looking for more affordable housing and those kinds of things, the Planning Commission ends up with those, talking about that. So that, from the water thing, if we do certain things on water, there's only so much available resource. So right. You've got a similar situation. And so we hear from other states, they're doing brownouts and those kind of things. What's the chance of a brownout in our area?
So as long as we keep the federal Columbia River power system intact and do not approach the topic of breaching the lower Snake River dams and losing that load, we're blessed. We live in an area that has a very good water system, a lot of hydroelectric. We have the Columbia Generating Station, which is a large nuclear facility, and we do have the availability of wind and solar. So we have a lot of dispatchable power. And the nice thing about a dam, when you think about it, is behind that dam is a reservoir, and that reservoir serves as a battery. And not only serves as a battery, but also serves as a low carbon transportation channel for goods and services to be shipped from Eastern Washington to market. So as long as we keep the dams in place and are able to meet the needs of everything that we're electrifying, we won't have to deal with brownouts. And there are other ways we can deal with that as well, with load shaping as utilities. And some of us can do that with the way we design our rates by having time of use rates, which would encourage or incentivize people to use more of their electricity during the lower load parts of the day. For example, doing laundry at night while people are sleeping, running your dishwasher at night, those sorts of things, charging your EV at night when the load.
So you have an education program to help people learn, think about those things, right?
That is one thing we are going to be doing. I just hired a brand new role for Lakeview Light and Power as a small cooperative utility. We just hired a communications specialist who's going to be focusing on member engagement. And she will be taking a lot of those and maybe doing small town meetings at our utility boardroom to provide people education about how they can conserve power, how they can get them in the know of what's going on legislatively in Olympia and also in the other Washington, and how they can support and respond to their lawmakers to help support carbon-free power.
In the News Tribune, either yesterday or today, I can't remember, one of those two, they talked about the Colorado River and some of the issues. So you talked about water behind the dam as the battery, but their battery is almost empty, or they said 3/4 down, I guess, something like that.
True. Yeah, I had the opportunity of visiting Hoover Dam last March with my family, and it is amazing how low their reservoir is behind the dam. And California has constraints, and part of that is because they have chosen to remove a lot of dispatchable energy off of their grid in exchange for green energy, which, and to give you a little bit, just a brief education, dispatchable is something like a dam where if you have water behind it, you can open up a floodgate, run the water through the penstock and generate electricity on demand. For gas generation or coal generation, you can fire up the generator and have it burn and create electricity. Wind and solar are variable generation. Wind only generates when the wind blows. Solar only generates when the sun shines. So they aren't dispatchable or firm sources of power. They're there and they're available and they're green, but it's not always a given that they're going to be able to power the needs of all of our electricity needs.
So we need it to build, somebody's got to invent a big capacitor, right? So you can pour all that energy.
Yeah, that's true. And there's a lot going on with battery development, utility scale battery development, which will help, as well as hydrogen production and hydrogen fuel. But those are new technologies that are still being explored and researched, and we're far from seeing what they're capable of. But for the time being, I think Washington's best bet is to not aggressively follow California's lead too much, because we may get ourselves into the same predicaments that they're in.
You know, not to get political, but the question then is, how do we, if they end up knocking the dams out, and I understand I like to fish, and so certainly salmon runs are important to us and those dams. But the federal government finally allowed us to start eliminating some of the seals, which has helped the fish thing. So what else do we do there? Well, education program.
Well, to give you an idea, Bonneville Power spends roughly $300 million every year for fish passage improvements and studies on biops for safe passage of salmon and other species. So, but there is the issue of predation. There's the issue of overharvesting. There are a lot of different issues that affect the livelihood of salmon species.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thank you for the questions.
Thanks, Mr. Parsons.
Yeah, just one quick one. Thanks for that. It was great background. When you talk about potentially another substation in the future or security around it, is there anything from a planning perspective we should think about, or areas that you're interested in Lakewood that you'd be putting in another substation?
Primarily, if the substation I was referring to would help power the load of the electric locomotives that Sound Transit would be using. And we would be looking for a site located near Stilcombe Boulevard, near where they park the trains at night, right by the Bolero, kind of in between Lakeview Drive and the train tracks there. And because that load is estimated to be anywhere from our substations, we have 4 substations Two of our substations are housed on the same property right across the street from Pierce Transit on 96th Street Southwest. Each of those substations is capable of generating 25 megawatts of electricity. The substation that we would potentially build for the Sound Transit load would be a 25 megawatt substation, and approximately 15 to 22 megawatts would be dedicated just to those locomotives. And again, it would depend on what type of charging mechanism they use. If they use a fast charger, EV charging comes in 3 different levels. Level 1 is slow trickle charge, which some residential chargers use. Level 2 is a common little faster charge for your vehicles. And then level 3, which is a DC or fast charge. If that were used for the locomotives, they're going to have a lot more electrical need than the 15 to 22 megawatts, where it could use pretty much all of that substation. So most of it would be dedicated to their load.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Anyone else in here?
I'm gonna hold just for time. Maybe we can get his information and
Yeah.
reach out after.
Absolutely.
And I just had one question. Is the hydropower, is that green energy or is that not green energy?
Hydropower, well, that's a good question. This is John's perspective, and a lot of people feel this way too. Hydroelectric power or generation is the greenest, most renewable form of electricity we have, because when you look at what it takes to generate it and the capabilities that you have of having a physical battery behind a dam, and then what provisions have been made for safe fish passage, for recreation, for transportation, it really is a renewable generation. We have rain. We live in a West Coast marine climate that feeds water to and snowpack to our mountains, which in turn drain into our rivers and tributaries and form the reservoirs behind our dams that we can turn into power.
So yeah, I'm of the same opinion on that. So what's the driver behind the state trying to remove dams? Is it simply fish?
A lot of it is fish and ecology, and some of it is tribal rights. Some of the
Okay.
tribes feel that they're being taken advantage of with the federal Columbia River power system.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Okay. Do we have more?
Yeah, we have 3 more.
Okay.
And
Thank
my
you very much, Mr. DeVore.
You're welcome, Tiffany. And my contact information is on this slide, and I'd be happy to talk to anybody if you have further questions.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. DeVore.
All right, we're going to come into the room here. We've got Julie White, who is here from Pierce College. So please, Ms. White.
Great, thank you. So I'm Julie White. I'm the Chancellor and CEO of Pierce College District. And until January 1st, I was the president of Pierce College Fort Chillicothe. So I've been in the community for 3.5 years, first serving as president just down the way. So I kind of prepared, I don't have a PowerPoint. I prepared to speak to some of the specific points in the plan, but I'll give you a little bit of an overview. Let me get to the right page here. I was taking some notes. Give you an overview of Pierce College. I'm still not on the right page. Hang on. How many pages? Okay. So I'll just give you some general information, first of all, about Pierce College. So we have 3 main sites, Pierce College Develop, Pierce College Fort Silicon, and Pierce at JBLM. We also have sites, just FYI, as Graham Kapowson and Spanaway Lake High Schools, and many sites in the community where we offer classes for English language learners and adult basic education classes. We have about 13,000 students that we serve over the course of a year across all of those sites. Our mission is to create quality educational opportunities for a diverse community of learners to thrive in an evolving world. So 3 parts of that: quality education, diverse community of learners, and evolving world. Boy, we can certainly say that over the past few years. We offer a whole variety of programs including, you may be familiar with our dual enrollment program, Running Start. As I said, English language learner classes, adult basic education. Students can get a high school diploma with us if they have aged out of the K-12 system. We have a community education division that does kind of classes for leisure. We have a partnership with Clover Park Technical College and Tacoma Community College to provide workforce training through a corporation called Invista. We also, just to highlight a few of the kinds of programs that we have professional technical programs such as EMS, dental hygiene, nursing, veterinary technology, and so on. And we have 6 BAS degrees, Bachelor's of Applied Science degrees. So students can get a 4-year degree if they would like. And at the Silicon campus, we have Homeland Security and Emergency Management, a BAS in teaching, dental hygiene, fire science, applied business management, construction management, and at Puyallup we have nursing. So that's a quick and dirty rundown of what we do. Our focus is really on, as our mission says, equitable student access and success. We have something to serve everyone in our community, and we're very deeply committed to that. So that's the overview. So what I prepared to do, Tiffany provided me with the plan and with some of the parts that related to Pierce College. So I'm just going to speak to those pieces, and then I'm happy to take questions. And Tiffany, I'll probably have to clean this up and I can provide this to you.
Great.
So,
No worries.
because I have referenced specific goals. So one of the goals has to do with maintaining working partnerships with Pierce College and Clover Park Technical for economic development. We work very closely with Clover Park Technical College to build pathways for in-demand employment opportunities, workforce training, everything from entry level all the way to those applied baccalaureates that I mentioned, and I mentioned Invista as well. So those are some of the things that we do around economic development. Tiffany, you highlighted something about Woodbrook, which I think does not relate to us.
That could well be.
But yeah, that was just fine. And I was just going to share, we do connect with our community-based organizations, provide services. We're a part of the 211 network, and have done some outreach in partnership with Clover Park Clover Park Technical College to let folks know in that area about the educational and training opportunities at the colleges in Lakewood. There is a goal to identify and implement strategies to foster small business development and expansion. So we partnered with the Small Business Development Center to support minority-owned small businesses in Pierce County. And we currently have a contract with a consulting company called Next. And if you know Grant Twyman or Rachel Askew, who you may or may not know, but they do a lot of consulting in this area. And they are working with 30 businesses to provide coaching for development and instruction. And we're kind of the fiscal agent and providing infrastructure support to that work. There is a goal to encourage local food systems. And I would just share that the Nourish food truck visits our Fort Silicon campus weekly, providing a week of meals to students, employees, and community members. That's very important, especially for our students. There is a goal around a comprehensive emergency management program. We've hired just recently a new campus safety and emergency director position, and it used to just be campus safety. And we've always needed emergency management, but COVID again really taught us how much we need it. So we built that into this new position. His name is Josh Brown. He is a Pierce College alum, which we love. And one of the things he's doing is building partnerships in the community. So we look forward to doing more with that. Through our criminal justice, fire science, homeland security, and emergency management programs, we provide, again, career pathways, educational pathways for incumbent workers and new students who are interested in those sectors. We have advisory committees that support us from the community on curriculum development. And we also host the statewide Center of Excellence for Homeland Security Emergency Management. And so all of the the community technical college system throughout the state has a number of centers of excellence where we gather staff, and the goal is to work specifically with those industries to meet their professional development and training needs and to help coordinate. And so again, the HSEM Center of Excellence is at Pierce College. I'm talking a mile a minute. You can
You're
feel free
good.
to stop
You're
me.
good.
All right. I had a board meeting myself today, so I'm like in that, in the talking mode. There is a goal to support the public education system. We provide quality educational programs, again, through our Running Start program for students to attend our classes, whether virtually or face-to-face. And we're very pleased with that. We work hard to support the whole student. And we've worked closely with both Clover Park and Steilacoom to implement more student services for Running Start students, because they can sometimes be disconnected. If they're disconnected from their local high school, the high school then may not know if they're struggling. So we're working to build connections and make good progress there. Let's see. Master plan. So we are required to have a master plan about our on-site campus structure and uses. So we completed the Fort Silicon master plan in October of 2019, and it was accepted by the City of Lakewood's hearing examiner in September of 2020. I will take a digression from this one and just note that we're also in the development of an interagency agreement with the City of Lakewood for a home baseball field at Fort Silicon Park. You're not aware of that, and we are super excited about that. So appreciate the work with the council there. Oh, let's see. There's a statement around the requirement, meeting the requirements of the city's development standards, fire protection, emergency access, and so on. We do all that. We're following the rules and making sure we're compliant with our master plan. And there's a goal to make sure we've got good infrastructure around pedestrian, bike, and bus connections, student housing and support services. We do have bike, pedestrian, and bus transportation to the Fort Silicon campus. We actually do have a very small residence hall that you wouldn't know. It's right next to Albertsons, or is it now? Is it still Albertsons? Silicon Boulevard,
Yeah.
Safeway. Yeah. And it's not marked, partly because we want our students to have kind of privacy. But it's a small facility with about 65 beds, and it's called the Center for Global Scholars. So it's intended to support our international students. Prior to the pandemic, we had almost 500 international students. We have about 150 now. We're slowly building back up. That went down to very few in 2020 and 2021. Many of those stay with host families. So we have a host family program. The residence hall does also have spaces for domestic students because we believe it's important for there to be interaction. That's part of the learning for both the international and for our domestic students who may not have the opportunity to travel internationally and learn about other cultures in that way. Let's see, ensure that high quality library services are available to Lakewood residents. While the Lakewood branch is closed, we are hosting the Pierce County Library on the Fort Silicon campus once a week. And they're coming by and offering library resources, community connection, and support for anybody who wishes to take advantage of it. And the Pierce College Library is open to all community members. So you don't have to be a Pierce College student or employee. We have computer resources, library books, all the good things libraries have. And we do have community members who use our library for sure. There's a goal to accommodate improvements in communication systems and state-of-the-art facilities. And to provide citizens with access to community information services. And again, through the library, we have high-speed internet access, wireless and wired desktops, and students have additional access to laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots. So we have been providing those and certainly ramped those up during the pandemic as well. And finally, create a community in which all members have the ability to meet their basic physical, economic, and social needs and enhance their quality of life. So I think everything I said speaks to that. And certainly, our, again, our community and continuing education offerings are available to anyone, whether they want to go back to school for credit or not. We have also been working hard with the community and statewide and nationally to advance equity and again, equitable student access and success so that all students, regardless of zip code, background, gender, race, ethnicity, have opportunities to further their lives and to really have economic self-sufficiency, which we think is a key part of our role in the community. Phew, so that's what I have. Happy to take any questions or cover anything that I have not addressed.
Mr. Estrada.
Very pleased to see how much cooperation you have between colleges. It's not a standalone.
Correct.
You don't do your thing, they don't do their thing. It's all togetherness so that we can provide the best to students. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yep, Mr. Combs.
I work all over the place and spend a lot of time up north, and I can say how fortunate Lakewood is to have an educational, further education, higher education, and more than one in our city. And so in my mind, and I think the city's done a good job at reaching out and being a partner. And you've been doing the school has been doing a great job on the receiving side. So I just kind of high, marks to everybody for doing that. And I hope that this continues. I love to hear and see the 6 programs that you have, that are BAS. And what are do you have, or can you share, do you have plans on expanding that? How can the city be helpful in supporting something like that? And what do you need from the city to help continue growing? And in the back of my head, and I've worked with a lot of student housing, didn't know you had that. I think it's awesome. And I think it's great that it serves international students. Housing being such a big challenge regionally. Is that something that is in the horizon for consideration, more public, private, whatever?
Sure, great questions. So let me go back to the BAS 4-year.
Yeah.
And I neglected to say, and this is important, that we are also a site for Central Washington University. So students who don't want to go into one of those programs can still stay physically at Pierce College, and we have classrooms for Central. So they can access other 4-year degrees through Central, which is a great partnership. So we really build out the BAS programs based on workforce industry demand. There's a lot of demand for dental hygienists. There's a lot of demand for nurses. And some of the things that we're facing there are challenges with clinical sites, because all of those students, they can do some of their clinical work in what are called simulation labs. If you've ever seen the nursing mannequins, they look very realistic. And we have heads for dental hygiene. We have a brand new building, if you ever want to see it, for dental hygiene and veterinary technology that we just opened in the fall. State of the art, overlooks Wahop Lake. One of the things that we have to be cognizant of, we've had some requests from industry for a physical therapist 4-year program. And other colleges can object to new programs if they think we're going to cut into their territory, basically. So, and I think that there are some legitimate questions around whether there really is the demand for enrollment for all of the PTA programs that are available. We do currently offer physical therapy assistant in a partnership with Whatcom. So it's a Whatcom degree, but it is at our campus. So again, that's another partnership that we have to support that need. So construction management is our newest, and you can imagine that again, in the past few years, that's been huge. And so when we hear from industry that they have a need for this kind of training, we do a feasibility study. We again connect with the other colleges in the area. And then there's an approval process, of course, at the state level. So long way of saying maybe, depending on that industry demand and depending on, again, what else is available. You know, one other partnership I'll just mention, especially on the 4-year degree route, is a partnership with UW-Tacoma. We are currently developing a dual admission program with UW-Tacoma for certain programs that students would be admitted at the same time to both colleges. They would know that they have that 4-year pathway. And so we're excited about that. And so access to that 4-year degree is really important to us, and appreciate that. And then you asked me another question.
Student housing.
Thank you, student housing. Oh, boy. Student housing requires a ton of resources. And I say that as having worked in a community college that had 900 student beds, which is a lot for a community college. I did work in the 4-year sector as well, but it requires substantial staff. And that is my concern right now, based on our funding allocation, the funding that we get from the legislature. We would need more funding to be able to substantially increase our housing. I think public-private partnerships are a possibility. But it don't, you know, and we've had kind of very early conversations with a couple of groups, but they haven't really been fruitful. I will say that we do have housing resources available on campus. We have a partnership with MDC, who is one of the kind of housing referral and service providers. They come onto campus for that. The state also allocated money for services for students experiencing homelessness, again, to help connect them to resources. So our energy at this point is going towards those community-based organization partnerships. I'd love to do it if we had the funding.
No,
you know.
all of those things make sense, and I get the challenges. You said MDC, you mean NDC?
MDC, I don't even know what Metropolitan Development Council. Thank you. We speak in acronyms in higher education sometimes. Yeah, it's a Tacoma base, but they serve all of Pierce County.
I was gonna say NDC, I'm familiar with, because they
don't
do
know NDC.
provide funding for
Okay.
universities,
Oh, okay.
but I don't know about that.
I'm not familiar with that. So.
Yeah, I was gonna say the student housing, you know, I work with the UW and
Sure.
SU or SPU and other schools. And yeah, I wonder if, you know, will that open the door for more people and keep them here?
Right.
You know, once the talent is done through school, how do we retain them in the city so that we
Exactly.
can
Yeah.
continue to grow? And right now we're going to lose them to every other big city around us. So.
Mr. Rogie, you have comments?
Thank you. I just wanted to ask a question because I'm dovetailing onto that question as part of the plan that you went through tonight. You had any additions or deletions of that plan? What would they be?
I'd like to see, so my biggest concern about the community, honestly, is and our mission in Pierce County, 2/3 of adults over the age of 25 do not have any post-secondary education at all. 2/3. That's not where our labor force needs are now, and it's going to become more exacerbated. So we're going to continue to face crises of poverty, of homelessness, of folks who can't sustain themselves financially. So I would love to see things around promoting and strengthening going to college, bridges between the K-12 districts and the colleges and universities. And again, we are doing that. But it is one of many things that we are doing. So, you know, more ways to help us sustain that work. And also just public, and maybe this comes through public education information around the benefits of a college education. Most of us know that, but there is widespread public skepticism about college, you know, education. And, you know, a lot of that is coming from things, frankly, happening at colleges that are nothing like Pierce College or any of our community and technical colleges. Just as far as institutions that are more elite that are, that maybe are not as in touch with the community and the community's needs as we are. And then I would add promoting financial access to college education. Washington State has an amazing financial aid program actually through the Washington College Grant, and a lot of people don't know about it. So I think we have a lot of education and kind of demystification of what it means to go to college. So working in partnership with the community, with community-based organizations, those are some things I am not great at.
Thank you. That's kind of similar comments that we heard last week from Clover Park Technical College. So about that bridging the gap between the 18 to 25s.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mr. DeVore, did you have a comments?
I do. Thank you. So thank you for your presentation. I am a 1987 graduate of Fort Slocum / Pierce College before I went on to graduates or undergrad school at CWU. But one thing I heard you touch on a little bit was the gap between college and high school. And this might even be a question for John and Brian from Clover Park School District. I've talked with Ron about it a little bit. A lot of the area school districts have a skills center, which kind of serves as a hybrid education model. And primarily, I think of it from the trades perspective. If we could get kids that are involved, that understand that there's community college and there's trades out there, they're really good quality jobs and professions for them to get involved with that don't encumber a lot of debt with them. What would we do to grow that? Or I don't know if anybody on the CPSD panel here has talked about the potential of using something like that to draw students into different skill sets and provide visibility for like trade and community positions.
And Brian may want to address this as well. And hello, Brian. We have worked together.
Hi, Julie.
I'll just say that we do have a great partnership to help transition students currently in those skills centers into pathways into the colleges. I'm sure at both Pierce College and Clover Park. I think, again, it's making students aware of those pathways at an early age. Because what I hear often is that students write off college, whether it's skills training or, a transfer to a 4-year, they kind of write it off early, somewhere around late elementary school and middle school. And so we're certainly interested in working with the K-12 partners to help, again, demonstrate all of the multiple pathways that are available. And certainly, Brian may want to add to that.
Yeah, I agree with Julie. We were talking this week about the fact that prior to the pandemic, we did more visits to like Pierce College and Clover Park Tech and BLU and University of Washington to come with our 7th graders. And because of the pandemic, we kind of taken a very long break from that. So we're trying to look at revitalizing that. It's also us matching up programs that in our high schools that match to programs at Pierce and Clover Park Tech as well. We've started up aerospace manufacturing at Lakes High School, which has been very, very successful in terms of actually getting students to be employed by Boeing, as well as students being interested in following the manufacturing career. And we also have a construction program at Clover Park High School, and that is sort of a growing field there to also match up to some programming both at Pierce and Clover Park Tech. So it's all about, I think Julie's right. It's that earlier exposure. We're looking at putting together a grant, potentially to even make that exposure start in our elementary schools to know where they could potentially see themselves, in 10 years and 18 years, right? What kind of careers are out there? But it's kind of building the system, K-12 and then beyond K-12.
Thank you.
The tech center for us is in the, it's out in Frederickson. It's quite a little haul to take students on a bus out to Frederickson. So we don't look to that Pierce County Skills Center very often. But Tacoma School District starting up a maritime academy, and we may be coordinating with them on. We have some programs that will match up to their maritime academy. So that's a little bit closer haul on a bus down to Floss Waterway for us, so it's not such a long drive. You know, by the time you take kids to the Frederickson area, then you have to basically turn around and bring them back.
Thank you. Mr. DeVore, did you have any follow-up comments on this topic?
No,
Or
that
is
was
your-
my only question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Your hand's still up. And Mr. Larson?
The Building Industry Association of Washington and locally the Master Builders Association have some pretty substantial scholarships available for skills center training for the building industry, as well as for the construction management industry. And also, I just learned today, I'm on the Workforce Development Committee of Master Builders Association. I just learned today that their Building Industry Association of Washington has some scholarships available for schools to present programs or to fund teachers and that kind of thing, up to $100,000 in size. And I'm going to be on the state committee as well. So
Great.
stand by. We maybe will bring more benefit to the local community and such. And the skills center training is something that the building industry is very, very interested in furthering. Our initiative is only in its third year, so we're still learning the ropes a little bit, but already we're getting a lot of involvement and opportunities for graduates. If I change the subject, while I have the floor for just a moment, our middle son is now 31 years old, had the fortune to get a Rotary Youth Exchange scholarship to, and he chose India, but he didn't matriculate his senior year in high school. So he came back and through the relationship with Clover Park High School and Fort Steilacoom College, was able to finish his senior year in high school and graduate with only about a 6-month delay. So we're grateful for Fort Stoughton College in our family.
Thank you.
Thank you. Comments,
Yeah.
Mr. Weigand?
I, as some have already said, we have a tremendous value in our community because of Pierce College. And my neighbor, you know, Diane Downey, you know, I mean, she can't tell you that, you know, how much value is there. And because of the interaction between student teachers, it's amazing. My youngest son spent some time at Pierce College. He has 2 masters now. He even worked there as a tutor in the math.
Sure.
You know, so, you know, Diane got him doing some of those kind of things. But I think one of the things that scares people away from higher education is cost. I mean, for my youngest son, who was at Pierce, they wanted $30,000 per year to get his second master's. And you know, he just said, hey, that's way too much money. And so I learned from Diane, from her husband, Paul Shelley, you know, he's got a PhD in chemistry, right? And 11 patents at Boeing and all those kinds of things. And he really sings the praises of how Pierce College helped those. So that's a little bit of advertisement on the side and the value that comes to the community. My 2 follow-up questions, though, is getting the community involved. And so host families, how are we doing there?
We're doing better than we were. That really dropped down again during the pandemic. We do still need host families if anybody's interested, but we're in pretty good shape at this point. However, we are seeing increased interest in folks coming again internationally. There's still some limitations because some countries aren't really letting folks leave the country based on their COVID restrictions, but others are. And so we're starting to have some pickup there. So we could definitely use more host families. I'm happy to leave my cards if anybody would like to, you know, have me put you in touch with the right person for that. So yeah, still need some, but we're okay.
It's a tremendous value for your individual family and for your community to get to know people.
Exactly.
My mother's an Australian, and several of my relatives in Australia have hosted people from Japan, and it's just been an amazing relationship there. So you get you get a chance to look at the students that are coming out of our K-12 program. So what are your thoughts? I mean, you look at, you know, our how's the right way to say it? The objective measurements that our OSPI is putting down, and we're seeing our states going downhill. So you're getting a chance to see some of the students that are coming out of that. What are your thoughts? What, you know, some things we should do different?
Sure. Well, I think one of the challenges with that K-12 to college bridge has always been a lack of coordination of curricular alignment. And I think that we've done some really good work with both Steilacoom and Clover Park around that. I will also say that a couple things. One is that we are definitely seeing, and you're reading about this in the news, students struggling more than they did. Students needing more support, whether it's social emotional support, it's academic support, because of the conditions of the pandemic that really kind of set them back in a number of ways. So we are definitely seeing that. And I guess the other thing I would say is that we've tried to, we're working, and I'd say we're not all the way there, but we're really working to focus on, are we ready for the students as much as are the students ready for us? And by that, I mean, do we have the right supports in place? Because we believe that all students can succeed. That is at the core of our mission and our vision. And so we've ramped up tutoring services. We've added additional supports in some of the math and English classes that students often struggle with in their first quarter or two. Again, we've ramped up basic needs supports with the food truck and the homelessness grant. We have a food pantry on campus. So that's where a lot of our focus is. I do think it's still important to especially coordinate those pathways at the local K through 12, make sure that the curriculum are aligned, right? So that students, say, coming out of construction at Clover Park are really well prepared to enter our construction management program to move forward. So, you know, I might have a bias. I'm a former high school English teacher. I think our K-12 systems are doing amazing work with, again, some limited resources. So again, there are struggles as well.
You know, I mean, the other question I have is you know, you have people that have to change for lots of different reasons. You know, I mean, industry changes and all of a sudden,
Yes.
how do people transition to something else that, you know, the buzzword we throw around is livable wage jobs, right? You know,
Yep.
and so how do you get there?
Yeah.
And certainly Pierce College has opportunities to help people.
We do. We have worker retraining funds that we coordinate with our workforce system locally. Yeah.
But it still amazes me to be out in the community work. You know, I'm now working as a handyman, you know, in the trade. So I see lots of people. So I see young people say, hey, what do you want to do? How did you get to where you are? And it's amazing to find out that, you know, as Lynn just said, that the electricians are paying money to students to be apprentices. The plumbers are paying money to students to be apprentices, and they can make some tremendous money. But do we have enough counselors out there that are helping people realize what their skill sets are and how to match that? That to me seems to be the void that's, because the children they want to do something, I think, but they're just ignorant about what their options are.
Yeah, I think everybody wants to have a purpose in life, whatever that is, and finding that through work is what many people do. I'm sure our K-12 partners can speak more to this, but we probably don't have enough, for example, guidance counselors in the school system to help students really do the depth of career exploration and development. We do some of that at Pierce as well. So when they get to us, the first one of the classes they're required to take their first quarter actually has them do a skills assessment for themselves and some career development work and make sure they know what career pathway that they're going to get to. And I know they're doing some of that work at K-12 as well.
Is that available we could just send people right down to to have, go through that program?
Yeah.
What would that cost?
Well, so, gosh. You can ask me a trick question. It's a college success course. And I'd have to look up the per credit cost. It's not going to be very much.
You know, a couple $100?
Probably 500-ish, somewhere around there. But I'd have to look that up. But we do also have, for free, we have a career planning center. And so we do also provide services to folks for that. We're geared obviously towards talking to them about our programs, but all of our folks know what the programs are at CPTC and TCC and Bates and so on. So that is also available, and they could just walk in to the front doors of Fort Silicum to our welcome center and say, hey, I'm interested in talking to someone about career options.
So a parent could,
Sorry, Mr. Wagon, but we need to keep going.
Yeah,
sorry,
It's already almost 8 o'clock.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
You
okay.
keep me going
That's
I
okay.
could go forever as well.
I'm sorry to
thank
interrupt.
you.
You're welcome. I would be remiss if I did. I thank you for all your accolades, and you're all great cheerleaders for Pierce College. I will let you know that the Aspen Institute has named us twice as a top 10 community college in this nation, and as once as a top 5 and once as a top 25. So even top 25 is, I'll take it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
appreciate
And then any other questions? I'm sure we can get some contact information and facilitate that way to kind of keep moving here.
I have one I can ask after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So do we have PSE or Clover Park is the next?
We have 2 representatives, and I should have said Clover Park School District, not technical colleges. So my apologies at the start of the
Well,
meeting.
That's all right.
So please go ahead.
Everyone gets it
Mr.
confused.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm Brian Labaugh. Thanks for having me, and thanks for Julie's presentation as well. It's I think really we're fortunate in Lakewood, right, to have a top tier community college and a top tier technical college, right, all in our neighborhood, right. Getting students connected to those programs is great. I mean, I think just in general for Pierce County, right, you've got PLU, you've got University of Washington Tacoma, you've got TCC, you have Bates. There's lots of entry points for students across the county, and just connecting kids to the right program as they see moving forward in their life. So I've just got a quick little presentation trying to answer some of the same questions I think Julie was trying to answer that Tiffany had provided us. Certainly Paul is on the school board here for Clover Park School District, and then John Boatman is our executive director for capital projects and risk management. He's here as well. All right, we're good going. Basically just a big overview of Clover Park School District, right? About 33% of our students are connected to the military. 66% overall across the district receive free and reduced price meals. Our students are fairly mobile, 7.8% mobility rate. We serve a fairly large number of students in special ed services, mostly a lot to do with the compassionate care site that JBLM represents. And then we have been having a growing percentage of students needing English language learners or multilingual learners. We have 16 elementary schools in total. 6 of those are on JBLM. All of those have been replaced. They're new schools. We have 3 middle schools, 2 comprehensive schools. As you know, Harrison Prep is our national baccalaureate secondary school, starting with a middle year program in 6th grade and then going to an IB program in 11, 12. We run a fairly large early learning program. Either those are early ECAP services or Head Start or early childhood special ed. We have a big program, 12 classrooms at the former Southgate Elementary School. We have a all-day program, 2 classrooms at Telecom. 3 of our schools on base have early learning programs as well. It's a couple of other schools in the city of Lakewood. We run an adult transition program that's for students who are transitioning from high school, but still need some more programming in typically students in special ed, and they are served till they're 21. I think often people don't know about our schools that we operate at Western State Hospital. We have an elementary school called Oak Grove, a secondary school called Furwood. We run a program with Oak Ridge. That is a transition center for young men that have been incarcerated. And they work closely with Bates Community or Bates Technical College. And then also just to remind you, we still have property in Lake City that we have maintained for a possible future school site. That's about a 9 to 10 acre site there in the heart of Lake City. The most recent school we opened in the fall of 2020 during the height of the pandemic. That's Thomas Middle School that was built at the former Mann Middle School site. That was the consolidation of Mann and Woodbrook Middle School. So we sold that former Woodbrook Middle School site. That's now a big warehouse facility. And then we did construct the Thomas Middle School without the tax burden of an additional voter approved bond. So from other bond issue savings and sale of property, we were able to build this brand new middle school, which currently is serving 950 students. Again, I've mentioned our Early Learning Center, which is our hub of our early learning programs over on the Southgate property. At this time, we really have no more physical space at our in-city schools. So Custer, Oakbrook, Idlewild, Dower, or Heroes, Lakeview, to add any additional early learning services. We do have a few classroom spaces on JBLM, but certainly are at capacity right now at our citywide schools. We try to provide a rigorous educational program in many ways, right? Through our multilingual learner program, our highly capable program, our special education services, focusing on career and college readiness, either through advanced placement courses that are at Lakes and Clover Park, or IB program, which is at Harrison Prep. We work very closely with Pierce College and Clover Park Technical College on creating dual credit partnerships with career and technical education. So students, while in high school, can earn college credit. And here's a picture of a student doing the aerospace manufacturing program at Lakes High School. And then, of course, we send students through the Running Start program. Julie mentioned that as well. Both at majority of our students go to Pierce College for Running Start, but can also do the other schools like Clover Park Tech or Bates or TCC. We do provide, due to the pandemic, one-to-one devices for all of our students. So roughly 12,000 laptops are out there for our students. We also distribute currently 1,000 hotspots, mostly for the fact that there is limited connectivity in various parts of the town, especially out in the Woodbrook area, some areas in Springbrook, and some of the areas out off of Hosmer. We have had to provide internet access for students, and we've been doing that through some emergency connectivity funds from the federal government. This is going to be this will be limited for a while for us. At some point when the federal funds dry up, we'll have to look at how do we get internet service for our students at home. And then, you know, looking at can Comcast and Rainier Connect and those that are providing internet services in the city of Lakewood provide more affordable access programs for families. As due to the library closure and before the library closure, we have maintained distribution of Pierce County library cards to all of our students. So in partnership with the Pierce County Library System, we do that. And then also at our libraries, at our schools, students can connect into the Pierce County Library System, or from their laptops as well. They can connect into that library system. They would have to order a book and have it and pick it up somewhere at this point. You know, when the library was open, was a hub. It was a place where students could get, or families could get, some additional internet connectivity. The city does provide us a contract where we use school or police officers on extra contract as school resource officers. We have participated as a member of Pierce County's Department of Emergency Management Planning. So we attend meetings and get information from that group as well. And then we do have city presentation on our district facilities advisory committee. As many of you know, there are still a number of aging school facilities inside of the city of Lakewood. Mentioned some of those schools: Idlewild, Lake Louise, Gower, Custer, are older schools. Clover Park High School, built in the 80s, is getting closer to aging out as well. And that's the end of my presentation. So I can take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Combs?
What's the plan for Tillicum Elementary since it's kind of outlived its life?
Well, we've done a fair chunk of remodeling to Tillicum. There's been new windows, a new exterior door, new flooring, new HVAC system. So we have done a number of repairs or capital, what we call small capital projects to that building over time. It's not so much the facility at this point as looking at a dwindling population, right? We're at about just over 200 kids in total at Tillicum Elementary. It gets to be something that the facility advisory committee is going to have to look at in terms of maintaining or keeping that facility open, right? It's a community school. We understand that, and we've put capital project money into upgrading it and making it more efficient and user friendly, but it also is not a place where we're seeing a growing population as well.
Thank you. Mr. Wagman?
Hey, Brian, could you just cover a little bit on the Early Learning Center, some of the things that are happening there, and then maybe feed into, kindergarten readiness?
Right, so we run ECAP program and a Head Start program at the Early Learning Center. And Southgate, of course, was a former elementary school. And when we built Four Heroes and Lakeview, right, we were able to move out of Southgate, which allowed us then to use it for a different purpose. So according to the state, right, we can't use that building any longer for a K-5 school or any K-12 programming, but we can use it for preschool programming for ages 3 through 5. But we are also at capacity at that building, right? We use every classroom. At some point, the state of Washington is probably going to make us change our programming. We have been grandfathered in where we run half-day programming for ECAP, which means we have 15 kids in the 15 to 19 kids in a morning session, and then another 15 to 19 kids in a PM session. Early childhood programming, if you read anything that the legislature has been looking at, is looking at increasing full day early childhood programming, but we only have 12 classrooms there. So if we were to go to full day programming, we can only offer 12 classrooms. That would be a maximum of 19 kids per classroom, which would half the number of students we currently serve. So it's something to be paying attention to as the legislature grapples with that topic. And you'll have to stay tuned. We don't have any place else really in terms of our existing facilities in the city to expand out to. We moved all that programming from our schools to that center because we needed those classrooms for kindergarten, first grade, fifth grade. But we run that program through a grant we have with the Puget Sound Educational Service District. They're the grantee and we're the service contractor. But it's a robust program, but we'll be seeing some change, I'm thinking, over time with our early learning program.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. I had a comment. So, I drive by the Lakewood Library often, and there's the fence up, and I wasn't aware that there was a partnership with Pierce College Library, and maybe it might be worth putting up a sign at the existing library to
All right, yeah.
kind of advertise that is a partnership, and there is another resource for you to go, rather than folks driving by or walking by and being like, wow, what do I do now? And so I don't know, who's the owner of that and how that all works, but that just seems like a a little disconnect, you know, in the meanwhile, that there are facilities that folks can use and it's easy. It's all, you know, it's available. So
I believe Paul Boki isn't Pierce County Library looking at the corner lot at Alpharetta and Bridgeport and building a modular library for the Pierce County system.
Running directly like
okay.
Western Park Lodge.
A temporary facility while they figure out what to do with their, you know, their facility was built right in the early 60s. It's old dirt.
Thank you.
Question.
Yep, Mr. Estrada.
Ms. White indicated that elementary school was probably the best time to start introducing students to the prospect of going to college, and felt that maybe we were a bit behind the power curve. Now, what is Clover Park School District? How do they introduce the aspect, the idea of students should in fact pursue a college degree? You know, when do you start doing that? How do you do it?
Our probably a more intensive programming starts in middle school, where we start with our advisory program and we start looking at 6th grade, talking about what is my future going to hold for me, right? Where do I think I'm going to go in my life after graduating from high school? That is an area where we are looking at exploring some more opportunities for our elementary students. The pandemic, of course, put us back a little bit on some work that we had been doing, but we're looking at revitalizing. It's more about getting students out. We have started a partnership with Lakewell Gardens, where Lakewell Gardens created some curriculum that is around what students can see and do at Lakewell Gardens. And we're training our teachers currently on that. And then we're going to take students on field trips, any 5th grade student who participates in this curriculum, to Lakewell Gardens. The docents there at Lakewell Gardens, along with our teachers and our volunteers, will go through some exposure to potential careers, right, that you can see at Lakewell Gardens. So we need to do more of that. This is a brand new partnership we have with Lakewell Gardens, and getting students onto that facility. I would believe that there's a good chunk of our students that don't even know something that like that exists, and they're close to them in their neighborhoods. So it's the exposure, those docents and then the staff that they have at Lakewell Gardens can talk about various careers, various directions students can take. We've also been working with Joint Base Lewis McChord. They have been interested in a concept called Starbase. It sounds very fancy, but it's a facility that you would put on the base that you would do STEM activities at, and then we would bus our 5th grade students across the district to that facility on Joint Base Lewis McChord. So it's in its very preliminary stages, but it's another place where we're looking at a partnership with them, and that's through the Department of Defense. They invest the money into that, and then it's really up to school districts to get, you know, us, the school district, to get our 5th graders there. That's another way to expose them to potential careers, right?
One of the reasons why I asked this question is Lakeview Light and Power each year provides a scholarship to students of members. Invariably, we don't get the students applying for the scholarship. So my feeling is, are they not going? And why are they not going? I mean, who would turn down some money to go was available to them? So why don't they pursue a college or a degree? So I look at the school district. Are they not pushing it enough? Are they not?
Yeah, I would just point out.
Because
Julie from Pierce College pointed out, like in Pierce County altogether, it's sort of a low percentage of students or adults that live in Pierce County who have a college degree, right? So it is a piece that we continue to work on. you know, if you want to stay in Lakewood, it's also then finding the career for that college degree, right? So what often happens is if they go to college and then they move to another city, like a bigger city, whether that's Seattle or Bellevue or Renton, right? Where that college career can be applied. You know, there's a lot of work around, you know, building, when we build warehouses, right? It's a different kind of degree that you need or certificate you need to work in those warehouses, right? So it's about forklift or supply chain logistics, those sorts of things. So it's a different career. So we have to build up students to understand there's kind of a different career when you look at warehousing and the warehouse spaces that are here in Lakewood. But it is something that Clover Park Technical College offers as a program.
Thank you.
Mr. Combs?
I was just gonna say, Brian, I'm pretty sure you guys do scholarship packets, or at least the high schools do. I know
Yes,
Lakes
we
is
do.
pretty diligent at that. So maybe all we need to do is put Mr. Estrada in contact with whoever you suggest, and
Yep.
he'll be able to get that out to a student, because I've seen a ton of success with those scholarship packets, and the Running Start program has been super successful. I work with the youth all throughout the city, and I've seen so many dozens of kids go through that program and off to college, and very few not go to college.
Right.
So that's just a disconnect. You've got the resources, they've got the students, and we need to get you together.
Yep, we have some processes. So there's a whole bunch of people in that room that can get me that information. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You can get it out there.
Mr. DeVore, you have comments?
Yeah, so I think what Mr. Estrada is getting at is I do work with all of the career counselors at each of the Lakewood or Clover Park School District high schools, at Clover Park, at Lakes High School, at Harrison Prep Academy. And we actually have banners that are hanging up in each of the schools. But to Bob's point, we've only had one scholarship application.
Yeah.
It's a relatively, low requirement, and we're offering $2,000 in multiple scholarships. And even if kind of tried to sweeten the pot by make it available that's renewable, that it's also available for parents if they want to go back and go to school. So we're just trying to look for ways that we can really engage and get the visibility of that out there more.
Yeah, yeah, let's talk about that. I think there's ways to do that. We do a lot of work with Kiwanis Club and Lions as well about their scholarships, and I think we just need to mimic some of that same with you all.
Thank you. Any further comments on this? Okay. Thank you, Brian, for your presentation and comments.
Thank you.
And do we have anyone else?
No, that's it for this
That's it
evening,
for
Mr.
that?
Chair.
Okay, so that finishes up our new business and reports from council. Nothing, okay.
I think we've done one.
Yep, that sounds good. And city staff,
Just to remind you, the next meeting will be February 15th, and we will have presentations from actually the annual was the name
Joint.
Shoreline Restoration Plan activities. If you recall, you have once a year the people that are usually it's Audubon Society and the Clover Creek Watershed Council come and give you an update that's happening this next meeting. And you're also going to hear from Paul Busich, our Public Works Director, who came earlier to talk transportation primarily. He will now be coming to you to talk about the Clover Creek floodplain study that the city commissioned recently. So all things water and environmental protection.
exciting.
Will you just fill us in on the PSC next meeting?
Yes, yes.
That'd be great. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comments from commission members? Paul?
I do have one. I don't know where the right place to bring this. It has to do with transportation. It has to do with Washington and Lake City. I didn't witness the accidents happen, but I was there shortly after they happened. And the signage is, in my opinion, is correct now. They should have made that intersection a four-way stop right from the get-go. And for some reason, they didn't do it. And at least two accidents that I know, pretty serious accidents. And I don't know who in our transportation department works that, but I think we need to raise the flag and say, what you got now is great, but why didn't we do that sooner?
And where was this at?
Washington and Lake City,
Okay,
when they shut down Vernon and Washington, they closed it off, but the people that were coming that way didn't have a stop sign. The two side streets had stop signs. Coming the other direction, didn't have a stop sign. And it was a mess from the get-go. And I should have got on my phone and talked to somebody way back then, but it's corrected now.
okay.
You know, I
2 accidents later.
well, yeah.
On that topic of traffic, so isn't this a question, I guess, is there any requirements to have illumination when you have, traffic, all these roundabouts and things? Do they have to be illuminated prior to opening the public road?
I would assume so, but I'm not the person to answer that.
Okay,
question.
because I don't think that
Certainly pass
they're,
it along.
yeah,
Yeah.
that would be, I know that's standard in Pierce County. We don't allow roads to be with those sorts of things, to be opened up when there isn't illumination, because it is, when it's dark out, it's like, and it's all new, and yeah, so it is,
I can pass that along.
I had a citizen ask me that same question, primarily down Edgewood.
yeah, cutting through over to, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a new roundabout there, and the lights haven't been turned on yet.
Yep.
The poles are all there, but it took a while to get them turned on Gravelly Lake too. So I don't know what the rules or policy.
Lights are always the last thing.
Could we blame, Yeah.
I mean, everything's built to standard and lights are usually the last thing.
Yeah, but I mean, they're there though, but they're, as Ryan just said, that they're opening it up before the lights are turned on. Could
All usage or anything else.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's it for me. I guess I'll take care of this and we'll call the meeting adjourned, right?
Yep.
Sure.
Yep.
Thank you, everyone.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks.